Can you speak to the Greek fire? So this was 941 and 944 when they tried. And then Greek fire was this technology developed by the Romans.
We don't really know what it was, Greek fire. It was a form of napalm, obviously. We have the ingredients, what made it up, naphtha and oil and things like that. But it was this very flammable material that would ignite on contact. So the Byzantines would fill it into clay pots and then throw the clay pots. As soon as it's exposed to oxygen, it would start burning. They also had siphons. They would carry like flamethrowers on their back, and they would just spray it at enemies. And the real devious thing about it is that if you launch this clay pot at a ship and the material, pooled across the wood and then dripped off into the water, being oil, it would float on top of the water and continue to burn. So that if you were a sailor and you jumped off the ship because it's on fire and jumped into this oil patch that's on fire, you'd be coated with it and you'd burn underneath the water. It was a horrible way to go. So this was a state secret, closely guarded secret, so closely guarded, it remains a mystery to this day of what exactly it was.
Which is incredible, right?
Yeah. But in the 944 attack on Constantinople, I mean, the Vikings are coming on their ships. They brought these ships from Sweden. I mean, that's crazy. They're in the Black Sea. They've sailed. And they kind of swarm at the Byzantines. The Byzantines launch a bunch of decrepit old ships toward them that have Greek fire on them, and that turns the tide. But the Byzantine emperor so appreciates the strength of these horrifying Vikings that he forms a bodyguard of them.
And hence we get, just a few years later, again, tried to sack Constantinople and then join them.
Yep.
The Varangian Guards in 988 with Basil II and Vladimir. They make Varangian Guard into an institution, and then the word of mouth spreads that this is a real career path for the Viking, is to join the Guard.
Yeah, that's right. Because not only do you get paid you get compensated very well, obviously, for defending the emperor, particularly if you do a good job, but you also have opportunities because the emperor sends you, let's go attack, this tribe, and you get to keep whatever you take. So there's tremendous amounts of war profiteering you can accomplish. And the other great river system, the Volga, that brings you to the great enemy of the Byzantines, the Abbasid Caliphate, and they had a lot of trading links with the north. So you get things like fur and amber, lots of slaves from the Islamic world going up. You even have, in a Swedish coin hoard, there's a Buddha that's been found. I mean, in Sweden.
Yeah. So these networks of trade, I mean, how incredible are they with geography? Right, you can transform your understanding of land from the geography of the land to the geography of the river networks, because the way they raid and then invade and then conquer England is through the rivers. It's an incredibly different way of seeing the world.
Yeah. And if you look at the kingdoms the Vikings created, and I'm thinking particularly of like Eric Bloodaxe in York, he's controlling parts of Ireland, parts of Scotland, Wales, England. Like that doesn't make sense unless you're a Viking. That also added tremendously to the terror that the Vikings brought, because, I mean, you should probably be a little careful with absolute statements here, but I can't think of a major European city that's not on a river, which meant now with the Vikings, because they could travel up, rivers, that's shallow rivers, and then carry their boats whenever they would. Everything was on the table now, even hundreds of miles inland is on the table.
At an incredible speed, much faster than the land armies. It's terrifying. You're living in a constant state of fear.